it's always going to have a nice dense look to it. And for me, that's what it's about.
So welcome, Armen. You've arrived today early morning all the way from Boston to New York just to meet us and see the progress and all and discuss the further plan of action. So we've reached 10 months after your procedure. How has been your experience and results so far?
Incredible. It's exceeded my expectations in every way. And me traveling from Boston to see you guys, I really don't care about an assessment as much as I do just getting an opportunity to spend some quality time with the both of you. I felt like you guys gave me so much, and friendships that I made when I was at Eugenix, and the closest that I feel with you guys, for you to only be 4 hours away from me, I wanted to seize the moment and take advantage of the opportunity to drive out here and spend some quality time with you. And it's been close to 10 months. It's 9 months and change, I guess. I feel like these are the months where you're seeing a lot of that maturity. I've seen it all grow in now, and now I'm just starting to see it thicken up. So I'm starting to see, those 2 hair grafts, those 3 hair grafts, that second and third and maybe even fourth hair come in with some of those grafts. I'm really starting to see it thicken up now. It's exciting to see. So
how do you make out the differentiation between doubles, triples, quadruples doing? Like, are you photographing, and how exactly are you?
Oh, that's a great question. So yeah, I kind of got a little bit geeky with it. I definitely did. So I had shaved my head quite a bit at the very beginning, and so it was easier to differentiate at the very beginning. I saw just the singles pop through, and I knew that more was coming. But I think that oftentimes that's that's overlooked when patients get transplants. They see that first hair pop in, and they're like, well, it looks light. I'm seeing the hair grow. I guess this is it. And then they're pleasantly surprised come month 6, 7, 8, 9 when that second and third hair is popping in, but they may not know it because it's all growing in and it's hard to see. I kept mine short for a while, so I was seeing the second hair and in some cases the third hair pop through. From taking photographs and zooming in certain areas and just focusing on certain areas.
Yes. So what happens, different follicles in the same graph, the same follicular unit, might have different phases. So some may be in the anagen phase, some may be in the telogen phase. So while the growth is happening. So that is one thing. The other thing that I like to emphasize and check with you is the density is not as dense as it was naturally when you were young, maybe in your teenage or early 20s. So the density is definitely half of what it should have been. So that is very important for everyone to keep in mind.
Yep.
And I can see that you've applied a styling gel today. So people have to do some styling exercises like putting some wax or gel to make it look more natural and blended.
Yep.
So the other thing which I have noticed is the transplanted hair are a bit rough, curly as compared to the natural hair. So what I feel the reason for the curliness is the distance between the transplanted hair. The natural hair, they are very close by, so they provide a support to each other, physical support, so they don't become that much curly. But transplanted hair, they are curly to some extent as compared to natural hair in people who had pre-existing straight hair. Did you observe that too?
I did, and actually I had wavy hair when I was a kid. Right? And so what I loved about the strategy for you guys is not just the artistry and the graft placement, right? Because I think that you guys excel in that area as far as giving the most natural hairlines that you can possibly offer. But also the angulation strategy. I think that's just as important. And the angulation strategy that you guys use for me, because I already had existing hair on my head, it was just about following a certain angle and making sure that there was a continuity between, the hair angles that I had with my existing hair, and then you guys having to fill in the gaps with hair, with my bald areas where I didn't have hair. And you followed it perfectly because I didn't realize this until my hair started to grow. I kind of went back in time to my childhood when I had the hair there before, and I realized my hair actually grew in this direction. You know what I mean? And there were certain ways that I was styling it when I was a kid, where I found myself as an adult going back to those same ways that I was styling it as a kid. And so I wouldn't have gotten that if you guys didn't have that angulation strategy at the very beginning, where you kind of mapped it out and said, you know, to make sure that when we're creating the slits, that they're created at a certain angle so that it follows the natural flow, right? So you know, that was fascinating to me, because again, it brought me kind of back in time again, and you know, it I think it, you know, got me to feel like it was something that wasn't, you know, man-made. It was almost like, you know, I just got back what was God-given from the very beginning, you know. So that was a pretty special feeling for me. But yeah, I mean, you know, again, I think it's exceeded my expectations in every way. Being a Norwood 3 for my whole life, right? So, you know, from when I was in my early 20s until today, you know, close to 50, I was a Norwood 3. And I could have just lived with it, you know, and I think it's a no-brainer when you're a Norwood 4, you're a Norwood 5 or 6. It's a no-brainer to get a hair transplant, because you're losing a little in the crown, you know, you've already lost a lot in the frontal. I just lost, you know, a lot in the frontal, but I still had plenty on top and in the crown. I could have not done anything. And so I realized that piece of the puzzle was an incredibly complex one. I thought it was simple. I thought I'd just select the clinic and away you go, right? But it's not as simple as that. And the more research I did, the more I realized how incredibly wrong things can go for you if you're not careful with exactly how you choose your clinic and how you move forward. And so what I loved about Eugenix, I loved the hairline. That was one of the first things that drew me to it. It was just a natural, soft hairline that had that God-given look to it, right? So that drew me in. The temple points and the way you guys work on that also drew me in. Donor management was another thing that was important to me, and the way that you guys handle that. So those are the things that I looked at the most, and of course techniques and things like that, and you guys pioneering a lot of techniques. But the DHT technique, you know, Eugenix Hair Sciences, it's exactly that. You guys have it down to science. And so when you combine the science with the artistry, it became a no-brainer choice for me to choose Eugenix. And, you know, I'm so happy that I did in so many ways. And again, it goes beyond just the hair transplant. It's getting close with you. It's getting close with Dr. Pradeep as well. And spending quality time with the Eugenix team.
Yeah, thank you so much. And the learning from you is that for most decisions in our life, we should do like ample amount of research. And yes, a lot of research and effort does go into the whatever subject, whatever decision that we have to make. And then with a lot of thought and once we put an effort into that, we end up making the right decision. So there should be a phase of dilemma, there should be some thinking, pros and cons, and all those things should be happening with usually most things in life. So that's a learning that I'll take from you.
So for me, Dr. Arika, I've always known that it would be a two-step approach for me. I know that with a single hair transplant, you could never get to true native density with any single hair transplant, no matter who is performing the procedure and everything. So I kind of knew that going in. I also knew that I stabilized my hair loss as well with my age, and also being on finasteride for as long as I've been on it. And so I knew from the beginning that I would feel confident enough to use more donor and to sacrifice more of that to try to get closer to native density. And so that's really the goal for me. I stayed a little bit conservative with the hairline, and I love where you actually place the hairline originally. But I feel comfortable now that the hair has grown in with different styles that I've done already to maybe try to bring it down just a little bit. It's not far off where I'd want it to be with where it is now. I think adding a little bit more density as well as extending on the temple points would be ideal as well. And so it's enough work where it definitely warrants a second procedure. And again, having the opportunity to spend some quality time with you guys and be at Eugenix and see everybody again, and get a top-off procedure. I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yes, yes, of course you are welcome, and it will also give you what do you call an opportunity to prevent a very severe transformation. So, like you brought it down a little bit, now you want a bit more aggressive. Yes, there's no harm because you've already reached where you wanted. Now you want a little bit of enhancement, we can do that, and it's better to be a bit more conservative in the first go. Yes, I agree, but I would still suggest that if with the second top up with respect to density, the expectation should not be like the actual real density which you had at the age of teenage. It will still be lesser than that. So that is also something which everyone should understand nicely.
Yeah, absolutely, and really, like I said, I think it's about just getting closer to it. So, and for me, it's actually about I like short hairstyles.
Okay.
And so there's times where I like to just shave my head.
Okay.
And you can see a disparity between what's been transplanted in the density comparatively to what's native. And so that's part of it as well, is that if I go with a really short hairstyle, I don't want there to be that discontinuity. I also wanted that if I'm in sunlight like this, we're out in this beautiful golf course, right? And the sun's shining down. If I'm out in this type of environment, you can't ever spot and see that. Not that it's hair transplant; it always looks natural, but that it lacks the density and it has a little bit more transparency.
Exactly. Appearance and lack of density.
Exactly. So now, regardless of whether my hair is wet or dry, or regardless of how long or short it is, and regardless of what lighting I'm in, it's always going to have a nice dense look to it. And for me, that's what it's about. And I know that second procedure should probably seal the deal for me.
Yes.
As far as future proofing.
Correct.